All right, finally, let's talk about ancient Rome. So ancient Rome existed since the 8th century BCE, which is its founding. And then it lasted until 5th century CE, which is the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. We'll be discussing this later, but the Roman Empire got so big that they had to divide the empire into two. So they had Eastern Roman Empire and Western Roman Empire. Western Roman Empire collapsed. And from the Western Roman Empire came many different civilizations. And Eastern Roman Empire was now called Byzantine. So we'll be talking about that later. The Romans were responsible for the development of modern engineering. They had domes, they had aqueducts, concrete, roads, mining. In fact, Roman concrete still stands. It's very, very durable, and people have not figured out the formula for Roman concrete. This Roman concrete is so well made that structures are still standing. Structures and roads and bridges, they're still standing. They also had roads. So I mean, can't they just just mow some grass and just call that a road? Well, a road is an actual structure that is made with asphalt and concrete and some other foundational work. When you pave it, it becomes a road. And the Romans invented these roads for walking and for horses and also for carriages. They had all kinds of inventions. And aqueducts, as you may know, carries water. They're basically bridges above land that carry water from one place to another. And they were basically a pipe system. And they adopted Greek aesthetics and culture for their own. So when the Roman Empire existed, it existed alongside Greek Empire, the Greek civilization. So the Romans, actually, they took over Greece, like later on. The Romans, they got so powerful that their civilization, it just grew bigger and bigger, and they kind of swallowed everything in the whole area. And very, very early on, they took Greek aesthetics and culture and made it their own. They really loved Greek culture. And they had a lot of entertainment. Okay, so they had colosseums, they had public bathhouses, and they had theaters, and they had, public fights. They had gladiators fighting each other to the death. And those were all forms of entertainment. And they really had lots of entertainment because, well, the politicians, they had to keep their people happy. That's how they gain public approval. That's how they get votes. So to get their votes and their public approval, they made these, they built a lot of structures for the sole purpose of entertaining the people, the citizens. Okay, so characteristics of Roman art. They're very aesthetically similar to Greek art at a glance. Very, very similar, almost impossible to tell apart. But instead of sculptures of deities, they had sculptures of generals, emperors, and other politicians. So most of the slides of Roman sculptures that you're going to see in this class are going to be of Roman politicians and other important people. They're not going to be of deities, because the Romans simply, that's what they did. They carved sculptures of their leaders. And you know, they really liked their leaders. They were very they held them in high regards. They also worshipped pagan gods and goddesses initially, such as Saturn. So Saturn is the Roman name for Zeus. So all these Greek gods and goddesses like Zeus, Heracles, all of them, they were adopted into Roman culture and religion, and the Romans gave them their own names. So Zeus turned into Saturn, and I don't know the whole list, but maybe you can Google it. There's the Greek name and then the Roman name. And then later on, the Romans, the entire civilization, they turned Christian. Okay, so that's also one of the reasons they didn't carve a lot of their pagan deities, because they became a Christian empire. So for the Romans, faces were depicted realistically instead of reflecting on ideals. So if you look at Greek art, if you look at Greek sculptures, you're going to see that a lot of their sculptures' faces, they look alike, and they're very young. And whereas the Roman sculptures, you're going to see sculptures of generals and leaders with a lot of wrinkles in their face. They're more realistic. They depicted people the way they look instead of giving them ideal beauty. And they were mostly in the form of sculptures, reliefs, mosaic, and paintings. So here's some examples. Okay, so this is a leader, maybe a diplomat, and obviously an old guy, even bald. So you would never see something like this in Greek art. This is Roman, just by the way his face is portrayed. He definitely has some age, maybe about 50 years old, 40, 50 years old, and he's bald. And he has a scroll in his hand. So yeah, it's someone who knows a thing or two. Scholar, diplomat, politician. Those are my guesses. And here's a relief. They had a lot of reliefs in Rome. So I think they may be, who are these people? Maybe they all have different roles. So this woman has a spear. This woman, I think this may be an instrument, like a musical instrument. I don't know what this person is holding. That looks like a ball, but I really don't know. Anyway, so if you look at their busts, if you look at the busts of these emperors, this may be Julius Caesar, this may be someone else. So, I mean, like it's chipped, these are old. So they used to be fully colored. These used to have full color, and they used to be painted, but all that paint has been worn off, so you're left with marble. They used to have pupils and everything. It used to look kind of creepy. This person has wrinkles on his forehead and on his eyes, okay, and a lot of facial hair. So this is definitely Roman. It's this person is portrayed the way he looks in real life. It's a carbon copy of himself, and the busts don't really adhere to one ideal. They look very different, right? And this is a fresco. This one's called a fresco, and this is called a mosaic. Mosaic is an image that is made by putting colored tiles together on a wall or any flat surface. You use some cement to place them, and then this basically becomes the floor or the wall or a ceiling. A lot of floors were mosaics so that you can walk on it. So these are all tiles. These are all stones that were broken up into little squares, and you can see mosaics quite often, even in modern interiors, modern structures. These were very popular in ancient Rome, and this is called a fresco. So frescoes are a little different. They are actually this is a painting. It's a painting on a wall. So it's not just any wall. The wall is treated first. The wall is treated so that it absorbs the paint, so that the paint actually penetrates, the pigment actually penetrates into the wall and is permanent, instead of just sitting on the wall surface. Because if it just sits on a wall surface, you can scrape it off. You can scrape it off and like it'll erode away. So they made these frescoes by treating the wall and covering it with plaster. The plaster is porous. Porous meaning liquid can get through it. So you cover it with plaster and then you paint on it, and then the paint will be absorbed, will be sucked through the plaster, and then the plaster becomes colored itself. So it's impossible to remove the color without removing the plaster, because the plaster is what holds color now. So this is a fresco. We'll be seeing a lot of fresco throughout the semester. Okay, so that is it. So look over the images and do some Googling. The internet is at your disposal. So do some Googling and try to really remember the characteristics of Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman art. They're all very different, although Mesopotamian and Egyptian are kind of similar, and Greek and Roman are kind of similar as well. But they all have their own features. They all have their own very unique styles. So learn to differentiate the four civilizations we learned today. Okay, so I'll see you next week.